Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Frank Rausen Pereira. You're watching Budget of Hope 2021-22. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been leading up to this day, February 1st, talking about what to expect from the budget and how this is a historic budget. That's what we're going to continue to do over the next 1 hour, where we will try and get some budget expectations, last-minute budget expectations from our panel of guests. We'll continue our coverage through the budget and after the budget as well, right up to 11 p.m. today, bringing you all the details, bringing you what the budget means for you and what it means for the nation as a whole. Remember, this is a historic budget in many ways. This is for the first time where we will not see budget printouts being seen inside Parliament. Everything is being done digitally. We've just gone through these. Let me just tell you about the latest visuals that we are seeing on our screens as well. Last year we saw that the customary budget briefcase was done away with and the budget papers or budget documents were carried in a red cloth bag. This time around, it seems like a tablet within a red pouch that the finance minister is carrying with her. As I was mentioning a little while earlier, there are no documents this time around. Everything is going to be digital and everything will be received with a push of a finger. The finance minister, along with the Minister of State Finance, have reached the Parliament building, and in fact, the finance minister will be presenting the budget in a short while from now. Customary photo op there of the finance minister leaving the finance ministry. Let me just update our viewers now that these are not live visuals but a little deferred. The finance minister has already reached the Parliament premises. This is the all-important budget tablet, if I can call it that she's carrying in her hand. All right, then let me also introduce our guests on the panel this morning. Joining me on the program, Aman Agarwal, Professor of Finance at the Indian Institute of Finance. Also with me, Yaduvendra Mathur, former Special Secretary, Niti Aayog. Surojit Gupta, Senior Editor of Times of India, also with us. And Dilip Chinoy, Secretary General of FICCI. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this very important day. Let me first start with you, Yaduvendra Mathur, and talk about what are your expectations looking at the economic survey, looking at all the, everything that's happened over the last 10 months. Can we say, or is it safe to assume that social sector and the health sector are going to get the highest attention as far as the budget today is concerned?
Right, good morning. And I think this is, like you rightly said, this is a budget of hope. And in these troubled times, I think every Indian and, all around the world, the budget of India has become so important as if that is what will make or break. But I'd like to just remind our distinguished viewers that over the last 10 months, there has been a spate of announcements and policy measures. So I would begin by saying that we have to look at whatever is presented today at this August occasion is a continuation of those series of measures. And the Atmanirbhar Bharat, that thing will continue, and we will see whatever was the gap in the earlier initiatives will be strengthened. They will be given sharper focus, and definitely there will be some new path-breaking reform agendas. But more than anything, there is an air of expectation, and rightly so. This is the beginning of the 75th year of our independence. And like the Prime Minister mentioned in the Mann Ki Baat on Sunday, that every Indian aspires to recount and see the journey that this proud nation over the last 75 years has taken, and to kind of visit, revisit, share, write. And he's actually encouraged every Indian, every student through Education Ministry to, really connect with where we were in the past, where we are right now, and what and how tremendously bright a new future, economic, social, and that future will be further given impetus by today. So my expectation is of a well-rounded announcements, and that will actually touch, move, and inspire every Indian.
Absolutely. All right, Dilip Juno, let me bring you in now. From an industry perspective, everything that you've seen over the last few weeks or the last few months, what is it that you would like to see in this budget?
Mr. Mathur said that well-rounded budget, but I think most importantly, I think the budget should inspire confidence and should spur demand through a variety of different measures going forward, and that would actually also be in a manner that provides both for social infrastructure, healthcare, and other social infrastructure, digital infrastructure across the country. For people to leverage the whole new way of either learning or doing business or work from anywhere or work from home going forward. But at the end of the budget speech, everybody should actually go up with a sense of confidence. Common people like many of us should have the confidence to go and spend. That would create demand. And then, every constituent should actually feel that, the budget has actually looked at creating a competitive environment for firms in India, large, medium, small, micro, and, look at it in a way that it benefits there. So there were three things that were actually, were in terms of the economic survey that the numbers are not picking up. The first was consumption. So whether it's infrastructure spend that drives demand and consumption, whether it is increasing some tax allowances for healthcare, for personal savings that actually put money in the hand, or continuing the PF or the ESI contribution in a different format, or allowing a deferral. The demand thing is very important. Investment will actually follow that. Investment and innovation. Because if we have to be competitive, we need to actually enable that to happen. So availability of finance, recapitalization of the banks, availability of low-cost finance for investments over a long period of time, possibly a bad bank there. Support to innovation, because it's only if we have demand stimulation, demand creation, investment, will you have jobs created. And I think everything is looking at employment. If employment actually happens, and of course, the agriculture sector will require a different set of things, because the Prime Minister has talked about doubling of the farm income every budget. They have actually introduced some new element there, and also like Mr. Mathur, we had these mini budgets, and the Prime Minister also referred to the mini budgets. So some of that expenditure in this budget has already been pre-committed, right? So we have to see over and above that what happens for low-cost housing, for worker housing, some of the steps and how should be taken forward.
Absolutely. All right. So we've got a couple of reactions in on the program. Of course, Mr. Mathur talking about how he expects it to be a well-rounded budget, and how Mr. Chinoy says that, the focus has to be on demand creation and also digitization. This is very, very important, and that's something that we've realized and seen in the pandemic year as well, that how important technology really is. Let's now go across to Parliament, where Akhilesh Suman is standing by, and to get a sense of what's happening there. Akhilesh, bring us up to date with what's happening in Parliament.
Frank, it is expected that around 10:15 the cabinet meeting will start. And, cabinet has to give approval to the budget copy, and then budget has to be presented at around 11 a.m. in Lok Sabha. But it was very interesting that before that, Nirmala Sitharaman also came to Parliament around, 10, and she showed us the, it is a tab now. Earlier it was suitcase, then it was turned into a Bahi Khata last year, like a register wrapped into red cloth. And now it is a tab that is put in a red bag. So it is a new change in this budget session this way, because we are undergoing the COVID pandemic period, and we have to be very secure. So we are also very excited to see that how Nirmala Sitharaman presents the budget through the tab, because tab is quite sensitive thing. So let us see that how it works.
Okay. All right. Akhilesh, stay with us. We'll come back to you for another reaction in just a bit. All right. Let me also bring in the other panelists on the program. Aman Agarwal, you've been patiently listening to the other panelists as well. You've heard our correspondent Akhilesh Suman too speak about how we've seen something new this time around. It's not a briefcase. It's not a cloth bag this time around. It's a pouch. It's a red pouch, a very convenient to carry pouch, and seems to be going with the times as well as far as India is concerned, and it also sends out a message of going digital as far as India is concerned. So digital India too being represented as far as the budget is concerned.
No, I agree with you, Frank. I think the budget this time would be a path-breaking budget, and we will see new dimensions of the budget come up this time in specific. It will focus on the social sector extensively. It will also focus on the welfare of the people and the healthcare, which have been given places in the budget in the past, but not the due diligence which is required in a country like India, which houses the almost, I would say, the second largest population of the world. And almost all possible categories of people, in not like only rich or only poor, but almost all categories of people which need to be taken care of by this budget, which is to be projecting the roadmap for tomorrow. We estimate that they would be, based on the previous projections, we estimate that there would be a fiscal spending increase to about 5.24%, which is expected to take place, and about an government expenditure crossing 59 lakh crore, which will happen this time. But despite that, the government will go about doing fiscal spending. There may be even healthcare relief, extension of the framework within the tax to give better relief, more relief for people who have been there. It could be in the form of COVID-19 relief. It could be in the form of extension of the healthcare benefit which is given in taxation, and that could also be there. We saw that Nirmala ji introduced the portfolio approach of the second framework of taxation, which we suggested way back in 1989 at the Institute of Finance and the Tax Incentive Scheme, which was actually then introduced by Pranab Mukherjee ji as the finance minister at that time, ND Tiwari ji, sorry, at that time, and tax incentives were introduced. But the important thing here is that there will be new dimensions which we are seeing every year. The focus on agriculture, the focus on healthcare, the focus on social well-being. It will be the most important component. The digital framework which we are talking about, I think there will be a major outlay in terms of bringing in artificial intelligence, not only for the purposes of disseminating information, but for the purposes of safety and security. The government would also enhance extensive budgetary allocations for bringing in structures which could actually bring in more safety and security for people at large, not only in defense, but people at large who are actually surfaced with the privacy issues concerning. And that's where I think there would be allocations. There would also be, in my opinion, reliefs in the tax structures which are there. One good thing which we saw this time happen in the tax filings, which was very amazing. Normally it took about 6 months to about a year, many of them who were getting their returns immediately after filing their tax returns. But this time, the tax authorities have actually processed them within a period of 1 month. And across the board, they have been delivering it across. And this is something which is the power of technology, and which the government is inducing to increase the governance, to bring out reforms, to reduce corruption, and to make that 1 rupee which the government allocates to reach the people. And lastly, I would like to say is that they are going to see that large number of projects have been laid out in the last 6-7 years of their presence. Some of them are still not in functionality. They would ensure that that will go up so that the employment, the job generation, whether it is on the defense corridor, that is waterways, cleaning systems, healthcare, hospitals creation, the facilities, the new schemes which have been launched within the Atmanirbhar Bharat provision would be introduced. We have also seen the fact that for the first time in the last 6-7 years, for the first time, we have been able to launch our own satellites. We are selling our defense equipment, which was never being done. We were only procuring, we were only spending. We were never doing it ourselves. And that is something which is a sea-phase change in terms of bringing prosperity and growth to the people of this country.
Absolutely. Surojit Gupta, let me bring you into the picture now. The vaccination drive is going wonderfully well. We have taken the lead as far as vaccine distribution and vaccine, administration is concerned too. But let's talk about the economic vaccine that is expected today. We've been through a very, very rough last 10 months. So how much of, room does the finance minister have to maneuver as far as the economic side of things are concerned?
It's an important budget, and it's being presented against the backdrop of a very, very difficult year. So I guess the economic survey has already, provided some cues, and if we go by that, there is going to be some big push on the fiscal side. It is needed as well. The government has been, over the past 1 year, come out with several measures. But the budget provides some room now to push ahead and help those sectors which need most hand-holding right now. For example, hospitality, tourism, airlines. Of course, healthcare will be the main focus right now in this pandemic-driven times. But I guess we'll also see increase in defense allocations, as well as education and other social sectors. So
Sure.
I am expecting a big fiscal push. To add to that, there's a very
I'll just come
important-
back to you in a bit, Surajit. Let me just take our viewers through what's happening on our screens right now. Prime Minister has arrived at the Parliament premises, and you just saw these visuals coming to you live from inside Parliament, of course, where the Prime Minister has made his way to one of the halls to be a part of the cabinet meeting. Let's not forget that the cabinet has to first approve the budget, and only then will it be presented by the finance minister. In a short while from now, the budget will be presented in the Lok Sabha at 11 a.m. Go ahead, Surajit. You were making your point.
So I was talking about another important report which is going to be tabled today is the Finance Commission report. And so we will have a new kind of formula for sharing of taxes, as well as other recommendations which could be far-reaching, a new fiscal roadmap. So a very, very important day from what I see.
Absolutely. An important day, a historic day, a day to look forward to. It will give us a roadmap of what to expect in the year as well as years to come. The Prime Minister calling it one of the most crucial decades of India. This was when the Parliament session itself began on the 29th of January. All right, then let me bring in the other panelists too. Yadavendra Mathur, let's talk about this entire fiscal deficit situation and how difficult is it for the finance minister to maneuver through this?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And like the other distinguished panelists mentioned, the 15th Finance Commission report, which is already with the government, it was submitted in November. And I think this is a critical time to take a call. And while the FRBM, the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, there has been a path that was agreed. And there is a lot of discussion going on, has gone. And today we will see the call that is being taken. But I'd like to add that it is not a one-off budget. It's a part of a larger 3 to 5 year expenditure framework that would be operated upon. And that's what is so critical for all Indians and all of us to kindly take note of. It's not only that from one budget to the other, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. It is a continuation of a well thought of strategy, and that typically is that while the debt to GDP ratio in India could definitely go up, the problem is not on the quantum of debt, but the fact that this debt sits on the balance sheet of the state or the central government, or even I will say the parastatals which are owned by the government. In other countries, the learning that we need to take is that while additional debt is great, it should sit on the private sector balance sheet, meaning thereby that the private sector needs to invest. And the government as a percentage of the entire GDP, reduces its impact, and the private sector really engines, they fire on all grounds. Now, the challenge has been in India that while the private sector did take debt, they were certain circumstances that cause them not to kind of honor the debt. And the long-term debt availability is where the shoe is pinching, which is typically what we call infrastructure financing, and long-term funds are not available. Short-term funds, 1 year, 3 year, that's the kind of horizon we have been used to think of. So the opportunity is for the savings to be plowed into long-term investment like pension funds and debt funds which are of long tenure, and that market is now opening up. I'm sure in the budget we will see a slew of measures that will encourage long-term investors in long-term projects which will deliver steady returns but over a long period of time without any hiccups or changes year to year. And to that end, the disinvestment push, the strategy for disinvestment, the actual implementation of, let's say, the Air India, the Bharat Petroleum, BPCL disinvestment, the 2 lakh crore target of disinvestment, those are things that I would very carefully watch in this budget and look at the signals of how government is able to not only do at the central level, but encourage the state governments to adopt this path of encouraging the private sector by the state governments and the municipal bodies to invest in assets which will deliver the growth, consistent high double-digit growth that we can deliver in the country over the next 10, 15 years. So we are talking of a double-digit growth for 2 decades when the per capita income of every Indian will really go up. Those are the long-term goals, which is, again to repeat, take additional debt, but let it sit on the balance sheet of the private sector. Find out ways that the private sector is able to invest without NPAs sitting on their books. So create the environment that if you invest in infrastructure, it is very profitable. So that message is very, very needed, including in health. If you invest in health, the returns will be very good, but over a long period of time. So health infrastructure will go up. The Ayushman Bharat scheme has been a resounding success. And that is one scheme which I will see in this budget and going forward. Many state governments were very reluctant. You see, many states, for some reason, they did not join the Ayushman Bharat scheme till much later in the day. So that kind of cohesion and cooperative federalism is absolutely critical. And I'm sure this budget and the Finance Commission reports will all be pointing in that direction.
Absolutely. Dilip Chinoy, let me bring you in now. Very interesting observations made there by Mr. Mathur. You know, as far as the private sector is concerned, the private sector also needs to, join in and join forces and probably take this particular aspect forward. Only then can we see true double-digit growth of the economy in India.
Right. And, I think there are 2 ways or multiple ways of actually doing this. So let's take infrastructure. We need long-term finance there. Currently, the concessions on taxation for infrastructure investment are only given to the sovereign funds. Can you give it to anybody who invests in infrastructure? That will, attract capital there. The second thing is that we tend to focus on long-term capital only for infrastructure. But there are many other sectors, steel, and long gestation period things which don't have capital goods, machinery, electronics, where don't have access to long-term, low-cost finances. So is it possible to have a development finance kind of a window? If you see a lot of the industrialization actually work here. Take healthcare as an example. Today there is a tax, exemption for those private sector or those people who invest in hospitals over 100 beds. Now, can we make it for any bed? Because, in small towns and villages, maybe you need 25 beds, 50 beds. So how do you actually create an environment? And, you could actually say, okay, this is available like in the manufacturing sector. The 15% tax rate is available if you come in and invest and you get productive before the 31st of March 2023. Hopefully, in this budget, they should extend it by maybe 1 or 2 years because we've lost a year in. So there are many other ways to actually attract investment here. But fundamentally, investment will not come in if capacity utilization is low. So capacity, to enable capacity utilization to go up, we need to actually increase demand. The whole export incentive things, because of the WTO case, have actually actually had an impact there. So the RODTEP scheme needs to have there's remission of duties. We don't want to export duties. That needs to have to be adequate kind of an outlay. But again, if we look at competitiveness, with the cost of capital, the cost of power, the cost of logistics, the whole competitiveness scenario. So can we look at for new industrial areas and new areas that are connecting it with the ports, with airports, etc. For existing areas, can you improve the connectivity? Can you ensure that the cost of transporting, let's say, steel from Jamshedpur to Bombay is very competitive? Just giving an example, the cost of transporting iron ore or coal is actually competitive. So you make competitive kind of industries here. It's only then, and then of course innovation. One thing that the pandemic has taught us, that if we innovate, and the vaccine is a great example of that. We have one vaccine candidate currently administered from India. There are 2 or 3 others in the pipeline. And the government, the ICMR, the labs, the universities all got together to create a system where the innovation and ecosystem thrive. The government also in the Atmanirbhar package kind of allocated 900 crores for that. And we need to see this innovation ecosystem going in. It's only then when we get investment and capacity utilization and demand, including in agriculture, will actually spur job creation and employment. And we have to actually look at those sectors, food processing, textiles, where hugely job intensive, to see that going forward. And of course, like I said earlier, the connection with agriculture. And how do you, 2 lakh crores of agricultural produce and food produce is wasted every year. Can we, the farm gate investment was announced in the Atmanirbhar package. Can we see the execution of that going forward? The cold chain system, getting private sector will invest, provided there is demand and provided the ecosystem actually looks at it there. So when I started, I said, if this is a budget that actually excludes confidence, promotes kind of demand or consumption and creates jobs, I think that is what will stand the test of time. And on the fiscal deficit, if I can just make a quick intervention, I think it has to be a 2 or 3 or a 4-year plan. I think the economic survey actually talked about the sovereign ratings and India punching below its weight. And of course, Surya mentioned the report. So if there's a greater devolution of finances to the states, can the center use some of its finances to spur directed expenditure from the states? And that the states do this. They did it in the urban sector in the Atmanirbhar package. Can they look at that, and can they actually enable the states to work in a cooperative manner so that the competitiveness of the different sectors actually increases? And finally, the micro and small,
Absolutely.
and especially the unbanked sector, they need, because they're large employers, they're large contributors to the economic value creation. I think we need to see something for them to invest. The ease of doing business, the cost of compliance, the cost of doing business are other things that we need to look at.
Absolutely. All right. A lot of things to look into, a lot of things to take care of, really, and confidence instilling measures need to be put in as far as the budget is concerned. Joining me on the program now is my colleague Kavindra Sachan as well. Kavindra, good morning. And, we've been talking about expectations from the budget, a big day today. All eyes on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And today she's carrying a pouch and a tablet in it. So something new as far as the way the budget is going to be presented too.
बिल्कुल, इस बार कोरोना के चलते हम देख रहे हैं कि ये कई सारे अहम ऐसे क्षेत्र में कहूँ, ये ऐसे टूल्स हैं जो शायद पहली बार बजट में हमें नज़र आने वाले हैं, और कुछ इसी तरीके की उम्मीद हम सुन रहे हैं अपने एक्सपर्ट के साथ में कि बजट जब पेश होगा उसमें नज़र आएगा, चाहे वो हमारी जीडीपी को बढ़ाने को लेकर नए कदमों की बात हो रही हो, या फिर कहा जा रहा है कि एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को लेकर जिस तरीके से सरकार ने अब तक कदम उठाए हैं उनको और रफ्तार देने की बात होगी, उसमें कुछ और नई स्कीम्स, नए इनिशिएटिव की बात होगी। साथ ही साथ फ्रैंक, एक और जो महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ है वो है फार्मा सेक्टर और मेडिकल, जिसको लेकर हमने देखा कि इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में भी खास तौर पर फोकस किया गया है, और शायद वहाँ पर भी कुछ बहुत अहम ऐसा नज़र आने जा रहा है अब से कुछ देर के बाद, जब हम बजट देखेंगे 11 बजे के बाद।
Absolutely. You know, let's take that particular aspect forward. Aman Agarwal, agriculture, farming, and you know, everything that's happened over the last couple of months, this is going to be very, very crucial and critical, isn't it?
I fully agree with you, Frank. I think agriculture, which has been going at a 3.4% last year, is been the backbone for this country, has been the survival end for this country during the times of COVID. I think the agriculturists need to be given their due respect and possession the dignity which they really deserve. Fortunately, this government in the last 3 budgets has given focus on agriculture, and with the new agriculture law which has come in, the act which has come in, I think it is giving the due coverage and the recognition which they require, which was seen in the budgets in the 60s and the 70s. And the Kisan was always the face of the budget. But in between, it seemed to have disappeared for almost 2.5 decades or so. And fortunately, now for the last 2 budgets or 3 budgets, we are seeing that come back. And it's important that it is given the due diligence and important. Fortunately, with the ENAMs being created, Pradhan Mantri ji talking about how mandis can now reach the farmers and them make their incomes double, the empowering the farmers to be able to go about selling their produces anywhere across the board, whether it is in India. And I think hopefully they will integrate it with the systems of the GEMS, which is selling it across the globe. And I think if they do that, because fortunately or unfortunately, because of restrictive structures on fertilizers in the 70s and the 80s, the farmers could not get into the new mechanized mechanism, and they're still organic. And that has become a blessing today, because organic foods actually earn 10 times the revenue as against non-organic foods across the globe. And as a result, we have seen in Punjab, Haryana and certain states in south of India, where agriculturists and tie-ups between countries like Israel, France, Germany and various other countries have actually done a joint venture framework in terms of producing agriculture produce and take it forward. And some of those agriculturists who have done this activity, who are able to conglomerate their land masses, have been able to do. We are very happy that the Kisan credit card, which we suggested way back in 1997, also has gone up and is actually creating that rebounding factor in terms of financing, because large number of other, like the poultry, the milk and other, have been added up by this government in the last 2 years budgets which have been presented. So the importance of farmers, which constitute about 60-65% of population engaged in agriculture, and about 72 to 75% in agro and agro-based industries. And now with large number of people moving back because of Corona and COVID in the last 1 year, and I would say about not more than 40% of them may come back, 60% may still stay there, we would need to see that we are going to have this new framework agriculture grow up. I hope the government can also look at the factor there. They make it mandatory, like in medicine, for medical officers, medical students to go and practice for 1 year in medicine before they get their certification. Similarly, in agriculture, if all agriculturist students, where we have set up large number of agriculture universities, are made to go to the villages, tell the farmers how they can mechanize, how can they do better production, better equipment, and get better revenue, because the farmers know. Unfortunately, a farmer is a producer. He is not a seller. He is not a marketer. And that is why when we suggested about 2 years back is that the mandis should reach the farmers and not the farmer coming to the mandi. That's where a lot of wastage and the middlemen come up. And this issue of middlemen has been eating away their profitability, never allowing them to double their incomes, being scumped to the wishes of these people. Even if they had the approach to the mandis would not buy their grains, because there would be some of these strong people who would bully them down. I think the government, with the new Farm Act which has been coming in, is trying to eradicate that framework. And that is where some of the rich farmers or landlords.
और इसके बारे में सोचना होगा शायद। लेकिन यदुवेंद्र साहब, माथुर साहब, आपसे मेरा सवाल यह कि 2 महत्वपूर्ण चीजें नजर आने वाली है जो कि अब तक एक्सपर्ट कहते रहे, क्योंकि आप नीति आयोग के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, और जिस तरीके के कॉन्सेप्ट की बात हो रही है, सरकारी खर्चे को बढ़ाने की बात हो रही है, जीडीपी को वापस रिकवरी मोड पर रफ्तार देने के लिए, और उसमें 2 जो मोड नजर आ रहे हैं वो एग्रीकल्चर है और दूसरा है हेल्थ सेक्टर। किस तरीके से आप देखते हैं कि एक्सपेंडिचर यहाँ पर बढ़ाने की कोशिश जरूर होगी, लेकिन टूल्स की अगर मैं बात करूं, वो क्या बेटर टूल्स हो सकते हैं जो कि रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड हों?
नहीं, आपने सही कहा कि जो खर्चा बढ़े वो खर्चा सरकार अपने हाथों से करे या वो खर्चा बढ़ाए आम नागरिकों के माध्यम से। तो जब दोनों ही विकल्प हैं तो सरकार को ज़्यादा ऑप्शंस इस समय कहाँ पे किसके थ्रू खर्चा बढ़ाएं। तो पहली बात जो जैसे और वक्ताओं ने कहा कि एग्रीकल्चर में खर्चा बढ़े, निवेश का, और इन्वेस्टमेंट एग्रीकल्चर में आए। और वो एग्रीकल्चर में इन्वेस्टमेंट जो है वो वही करेगा जिसका थोड़ा सा लॉन्ग टर्म उसमें स्टेक होगा। तो एक तो फार्मर खुद महसूस करता है कि यदि वो एक ही जिन्स को उगाए, एक ही तरह के इन्वेस्टमेंट्स अपने फार्म पे करे और उसको एक लॉन्ग टर्म बायर मिल जाए, जैसे हम मकान भी कभी खरीदते हैं और फिर हम उसको किराए पे दे देते हैं, तो हमको सुनिश्चित होता है कि भाई हमारा जो ब्याज है मकान खरीदने में वो हमारे किराए से निकल जाएगा। तो आज ज़रूरत है कि हम इस बात को बार बार आम फार्मर तक, छोटे किसान तक पहुंचा दें कि आपका जो प्रोडक्टिव गेन है, आपकी जो जिन्स है, जो भी आप उगाएंगे, चाहे आप फल सब्जी उगाएं, चाहे आप गेहूं चावल और क्रॉप्स उगाएं, या आप कोई और पोल्ट्री, जैसा अभी अमन जी कह रहे थे, डाइवर्सिफाइड एग्रीकल्चर में जाएं, तो वो सारे विकल्प फार्मर को दिखें और वो इन्वेस्ट कर पाए। तो गवर्नमेंट ने तो कई एजेंसीज खोली, किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड की बात हुई, लेकिन आज भी ये देखा गया है कि ये निवेश अगर प्राइवेट सेक्टर खुद करे एग्रीकल्चर में, तो वो एग्रीप्रेन्योर्स, एग्री इंटरप्राइजेज बहुत बड़ी बन जाएंगी। और भारत में वो पोटेंशियल है कि हमारी एग्रीकल्चर कंपनीज दुनिया भर में पहुंच सकती हैं, क्योंकि जितनी विविधता हमारे एग्रीकल्चर में है वो बिरला ही देशों में होगी। हम जिस भी तरह का आप बात करें वो चीज़ हमारे देश में उग सकती है और हम उसको दुनिया के किसी भी कोने में पहुंचा सकते हैं। और जो कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज हमारे एक्सपोर्ट की है वो उसी एरिया में है जहां पे हम औरों को बीट कर सकते हैं और हमारी चीज़ वहां पहुंचे। अन्य देशों ने फार्मर्स को सब्सिडाइज बहुत साल पहले करा था, हमने भी करा फार्मर को सब्सिडाइज, लेकिन ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि वो फार्मर का सब्सिडाइजेशन वो केवल गेहूं और चावल और कोई ऐसी 2-3 क्रॉप्स में चला गया, और जिसके वजह से इनका तो ओवर प्रोडक्शन हो गया, लेकिन जो और बास्केट ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स हैं उसमें हमारा फार्मर किन्हीं कारणवश नहीं जा पाया। अब ये मौका है, ये जो बदलाव आ रहा है, जो रिफॉर्म आ रहा है, उसमें थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, लेकिन अगर लोग बिल्कुल ठंडे दिमाग से सोचें तो सस्टेनेबल जो पर्यावरण का, उसके परिवेश में अगर विविधता हमारे एग्रीकल्चर में आ जाए
जी।
और हम उनको हेल्प कर सकें कि वो ग्लोबल मार्केट, इंडियन मार्केट, कहीं भी हमारा फार्मर पहुंच सकता है, तो एक जो वो डबल डिजिट ग्रोथ है, वो एग्रीकल्चर ही एक सेक्टर है जो आपको डबल डिजिट ग्रोथ दे सकता है।
पोटेंशियल वहां
और
पर
वो पोटेंशियल हमको अनलॉक करना है। हमारी मैन पावर है वहाँ पे, हमारे पास रिसोर्सेज हैं, हमारा पर्यावरण है और हमारे में इच्छा शक्ति है, और मुझे लगता है कि ये रूपांतरण आना चाहिए। उसके अलावा जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में भी जो चीज़ जिसमें हम कंपेटिटिव हैं, जैसे टेक्सटाइल है, तो टेक्सटाइल में आप देखेंगे आने वाले इस बजट में मुझे उम्मीद है कि टेक्सटाइल में जॉब्स बहुत जल्दी क्रिएट हो जाते हैं। निवेश
मैं टेक्सटाइल और जॉब पर भी आऊंगा, उससे पहले एग्रीकल्चर आपने कहा पॉइंट और सब्सिडी को खासतौर पर अगर सुरजीत मैं कहूं कि जिस तरीके से अलग अलग मोड और मॉडल्स की बात होती है, एक तरफ सब्सिडी की बात होती है जिसको हमने देखा है, दूसरी ओर ये कहा जा रहा है कि जो मार्केट है और जो रियल प्राइस है उससे बेनिफिशरी किस तरीके से जो किसान है या डायरेक्ट जो सेलर है वो हो पाए, वो एक मॉडल। और तीसरा ये है कि क्या कोई और इस तरीके का मॉडल जहां पर मिक्स मॉडल की बात होती है वो उसकी तरफ हम बढ़ते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं, और बजट में क्या फोकस इन कदमों को और आगे बढ़ाने की तरफ होगा। लेकिन जब प्राइवेट मॉडल को हम अपनाने की बात करते हैं वहां पर आशंकाएं खड़ी होती हैं और कुछ जगहों से विरोध भी शुरू होता है। ओके, तो जी शायद इस वक्त हमारे साथ नहीं है। दिलीप साहब, अगर इंडस्ट्री के लिहाज से देखें, इंडस्ट्री, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर और ख़ास तौर पर अगर मैं कहूँ जो फार्मा या फिर मेडिकल फील्ड की ओरल बात हो रही है, यहाँ पर उसका रोल किस तरीके से है और ज़्यादा बड़ा रोल हो सकता है, लेकिन उसके रोल बढ़ने के साथ ही किसानों की ओर से कुछ आशंकाएं शुरू हो जाती हैं मोनोपोली को लेकर।
इसमें अगर आप देखें तो एग्रीकल्चर को हम अगर फूड प्रोसेसिंग से लिंक करें, और इसमें जो अभी जो फार्म लॉज में जो अमेंडमेंट किए गए थे वो एक तरीके से काफी इसको प्रोहिबिट करते थे, एंड यू विल मेक इट इजियर फॉर पीपल टू एक्चुअली लिंक एग्रीकल्चर विद फूड प्रोसेसिंग। अगर आप देखें तो प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा था कि कई सेक्टर्स के बीच में दीवार खड़े हुए हैं, तो ये दीवार एक तरीके से उसको खत्म करनी चाहिए। और जो प्रोक्योरमेंट है और स्टोरेज का जो एसेंशियल कमोडिटीज एक्ट में जो स्टोरेज के ऊपर जो लिमिट्स थे वगैरह, उनको भी एक तरीके से हटाया जाए और एक एक पूरा इकोसिस्टम क्रिएट करें जिससे हमारे जो 2 लाख करोड़ की जो वेस्टेज होता है एग्रीकल्चर और फूड प्रोसेसिंग सेक्टर में, उसको कम किया जाए। और जैसे अमन अग्रवाल जी ने कहा था कि एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी कैसे इंप्रूव किया जाए, तो ये इस एक तरीके से है। और अगर ये इकोसिस्टम इनवाइट करता है इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर उसमें इन्वेस्ट करेगा, प्राइवेट सेक्टर कैपिटल इंटेंसिव इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा और उसको एक तरीके से आगे बढ़ाएगा। अगर हेल्थ केयर में अगर आप देखें तो हेल्थ केयर में बहुत सारे अवसर है प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए। अगर अभी जो लिमिट्स हैं, वो इन्वेस्टमेंट का जो लिमिट है वो 100 बेड हॉस्पिटल्स के ऊपर है। अगर उस लिमिट को घटाया जाए और वो जो सेक्शन 30 एडी के जो इंसेंटिव दिया जाता है, वो कोई भी हॉस्पिटल, कोई भी लेबोरेटरी को एक तरीके से दिया जाए, तो उसमें प्राइवेट सेक्टर काफी इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा। दूसरा जो हेल्थ केयर वर्कफोर्स के लिए है, उसके लिए भी जो एक्सपेंडिचर करे स्किल डेवलपमेंट और ट्रेनिंग, जो पैरामेडिकल स्टाफ है, जो दूसरे जो फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर्स है, उनके लिए भी अगर 150% डिडक्शन दिया जाए, तो फिर प्राइवेट सेक्टर उसमें इन्वेस्ट करेगा। तीसरा जो है सेक्शन 80 JJAA है, जिसको आप अगर एम्प्लॉयमेंट करते हैं उसको आपको एक तरीके से राहत मिलती है। उसको अगर हेल्थ केयर सेक्टर और सर्विस सेक्टर में एक्चुअली एक्सपैंड किया जाए और उसको जो सैलरी लिमिट है उसको भी बढ़ाया जाए, तो ये अलग अलग तरीके हैं वित्त मंत्री के सामने, जिससे वो इस क्षेत्र में इन्वेस्टमेंट इनवाइट कर सकती है। और ऑफ कोर्स जो फूड में जो PLI स्कीम था, वो अभी लिमिटेड सेक्टर में है, उसको आगे जा करके और सेक्टर में अगर एक्सपैंड किया जाए तो बहुत ही फायदेमंद होगा।
बिल्कुल। और फ्रैंक, बहुत महत्वपूर्ण से इसकी बात यदविंद्र साहब कर रहे थे कि साथ ही साथ एक्सपोर्ट और एम्प्लॉयमेंट, ये दोनों टूल ऐसे हैं जो कि बहुत बड़ा एक रोल मैं कहूँ कि इकोनॉमी में GDP पे नजर आता है।
Absolutely, Kavinder. These are very, very important and critical aspects that were indeed raised, and agriculture clearly is going to be a big focus area as far as the budget is concerned. It's been a big focus area for the government too over the last few years, and the government is very keen to address the issues that arise out of agriculture. There are a few other things that we need to discuss about as well, Kavindra. We've got about 15 minutes to the budget presentation itself. Let's also talk about the MSMEs. I think it was Dilip Chenoy who raised this particular point a short while ago. Surojit, if you've joined us on the program, as far as MSMEs are concerned, several of them have been going through a tough phase, and the government has said time and again that it is keen to ensure that MSMEs are given kind of a helping hand so that they can survive this difficult phase and go through as well. How important is the MSME sectors? What can we expect for the MSMEs, and what can the government do for them?
Well, if you see the past 1 year since the pandemic, a lot of steps have been taken to basically take care of the funding needs of MSMEs. The Reserve Bank has provided liquidity. There have been steps to, reform the sector. So I guess it is a very, very critical sector. The sector is under a lot of stress, and there the government will come out with some concrete measures again to complement the measures which have already been taken, because this is a very, very important sector which employs thousands of people, and it's spread all across the country, and it's very critical for our exports as well. So I guess we will see some important steps to consolidate and lend a helping hand.
Absolutely. And since we are here, let's also talk about exports. Let's also talk about employment, job creation. Those are critical aspects too. Yadavendra Mathur, I'd like your reactions on that.
Yes, so like Mr. Chenoy and Mr. Surajit said, the economic growth of India is, kind of held back, if I may say, because we have this ongoing debate about tariffs protecting Indian industry, and we also have this issue of joining global value chains. So both these things have to be reconciled. So while tariffs may protect a domestic industry which is being hurt because of dumping or other bad practices by other countries, we have to protect them. But we need to keep importing capital goods so that we can then export in a greater measure and really find out our competitive advantage. Like I mentioned, textiles is one area where we have huge competitive advantage, and we have actually slipped on these very powerful areas, engines of our export-led growth. So I would really like to see in the budget. I used to be with Export-Import Bank of India, and we were doing project exports. So that is also one area where we can do a lot more. We can export not only goods but also services. If you export both of them together, it's called a project. So I would like to see really the Indian companies going global,
Right.
and executing projects and getting back wealth and gains to our country. I think that is so critical.
Absolutely. And a quick update as well on what's happening inside Parliament. Let us update our viewers, Kavindra, that the cabinet meet is now over and the Union Cabinet has approved the budget 2021-22.
बिल्कुल, और ये जो परंपरा है बजट से ठीक पहले बजट को केंद्रीय कैबिनेट मंजूरी देती है और उसके बाद ही बजट संसद के पटल पर रखा जाता है वित्त मंत्री की ओर से। और ये जो प्रक्रिया ये पूरी हो चुकी है। अब से कुछ देर के बाद करीब मैं कहूँ कि 10 से 12 मिनट का वक्त और है जब बजट भाषण की शुरुआत होगी वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण की ओर से। लेकिन उससे पहले जो उम्मीदों की बात हो रही है उस पर एक छोटा सा मैं रिएक्शन और चाहूँगा यदविंद सर आपसे कि जब हम बात कर रहे थे आपने कहा कि एक्सपोर्ट को लेकर और साथ ही साथ अगर मैं कहूँ कि टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री को लेकर, लेकिन यहाँ पर भी कुछ चैलेंजेस हमें नज़र आए क्योंकि इससे पहले जब हमने एक्सपर्ट्स के साथ देखा था बातचीत करते पिछले कुछ हफ्तों में बजट स्पेशल शोज़ में, वहाँ पर की कई सारी चुनौतियाँ भी हैं, कुछ ऐसे और रिफॉर्म्स जिनको लाने की ज़रूरत है, चाहे वो टैक्सेशन को लेकर हो या सिंगल विंडो क्लियरेंस को सिस्टम को लेकर। स्टेट लेवल पर काफ़ी ज़्यादा अभी भी मानना है एक्सपर्ट का कि वहाँ पर हर्डल्स हैं। कैसे इसको स्ट्रीमलाइन करने की ज़रूरत होगी और सेंटर के पास कितना स्कोप या फिर विंडो नज़र आती है?
आपने सही कहा कि टेक्सटाइल्स पे आपने पढ़ा होगा कि गवर्नमेंट ने जो प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव स्कीम लॉन्च करी है उसमें टेक्सटाइल्स भी और विशेषकर मैन मेड टेक्सटाइल्स को बढ़ावा देने के लिए 30 से 50 टेक्सटाइल के बड़े क्लस्टर्स संभवतः इस बजट में हम लोग उसके बारे में कुछ सुनेंगे। और ये जो 30 से 50 क्लस्टर्स ऐसे एरियाज़ में हैं टेक्सटाइल्स के, जैसे बच्चों के गारमेंट्स हैं, सिंथेटिक टी शर्ट्स, ये वो, मतलब बहुत जो मैन मेड फाइबर का बहुत प्रचलन है। और हम लोगों ने अपने देश में किसी कारण से केवल कॉटन मेड टेक्सटाइल को बहुत बढ़ावा दिया था, प्रोटेक्शन दिया था, और मैन मेड फाइबर की हमारी पॉलिसी अच्छी नहीं थी। अब वो चीज़ें सब एड्रेस हो गई हैं और आप देखेंगे आने वाले टाइम में कि जो निवेश आएगा वो इन मैन मेड फाइबर्स में कस के आएगा। यार्न हम बनाते हैं, अब हम यार्न से फैब्रिक बनाएंगे और फैब्रिक को हम प्रोसेस करेंगे, हम कपड़े बनाएंगे और कपड़े को हम एक्सपोर्ट करेंगे। 100 रुपये मीटर का जो कपड़ा है अगर उसकी आप शर्ट बना दें तो वो शर्ट शायद 4,000 रुपये तक आप शर्ट बेच सकते हैं। तो जो वैल्यू एडिशन हमारे देश को मिलेगा और हमारा लेबर जो प्रोडक्टिव है उसमें टैलेंट है और बहुत ज़्यादा हम लेबर को अब्जॉर्ब कर सकते हैं टेक्सटाइल्स में। और राज्य सरकारों को इसमें बिजली जो 30 से 40% जो लागत आती है वो बिजली की है। बिजली की दरें जो हैं वो कैसे भी करके हमको घटानी है उद्योग के लिए, और उस उद्योग के लिए घटानी है जो रोज़गार देता है। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि स्टेट लेवल पे जो विद्युत क्षेत्र में रिफॉर्म्स हैं उस पे भी काम हो रहा है। भारत सरकार ने उसकी एक स्कीम बनाई है और अगर 3 रुपये कोई खर्च करता है डिस्कॉम तो भारत सरकार 1 रुपया उसमें ग्रांट दे देगी। लेकिन उस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनी को अपनी कमर कसनी पड़ेगी, चोरी और जो मैल प्रैक्टिसेस हैं उसको रोकना पड़ेगा। तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी क्षेत्र के जो रिफॉर्म्स हैं उसमें भारत सरकार तो पॉलिसी बना सकती है, इंसेंटिवाइज कर सकती है, लेकिन काम तो राज्य सरकारों को, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज क्योंकि राज्य सरकार के अधीन हैं, वहाँ पे कुछ बदलाव आए और जहाँ पे जॉब्स क्रिएट हों उन इंडस्ट्रीज को स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स भी अगर इनकरेज करेंगी तो मैं समझता हूं कि 3 से 5 सालों में हम बहुत रोजगार के मौके खोल सकते हैं केवल बिजली की दरों को कंपेटिटिव बना के।
अमन, क्योंकि एक और फील्ड जहां पर लग रहा है कि फोकस काफ़ी ज़्यादा है, हमने अगर पिछले कुछ वर्षों के अनाउंसमेंट्स को देखें, और वो है जो गैर पारंपरिक ऊर्जा की बात होती है, चाहे वो ईवी की बात हो रही हो या फिर मैं कहूँ कि सोलर एनर्जी या उससे उस सेक्टर की बात ओवरऑल बात हो रही हो। क्या उम्मीद कर सकते हैं कि कुछ बड़े अनाउंसमेंट और इंसेंटिव्स इस सेक्टर्स के लिए भी इस बार नज़र आने वाले हैं? और यहाँ पर भी जिस तरीके से हमने देखा है कि सोलर अलायंस के बाद एक बहुत ज़्यादा पोटेंशियल नज़र आया है और उसको लीड करने के लिए इंडिया इस वक्त आगे खड़ा हुआ है, तो वर्ल्ड वाइड उस मार्केट को कैप्चर करने के लिए क्या आपको लगता है कि बजट में उम्मीद कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, आपने ठीक कहा कि बजट, जैसे मैंने पहले कहा था, पाथ ब्रेकिंग रहेगा क्योंकि सोशल और वेलफेयर पे फोकस करेगा, और उस वेलफेयर के अंदर जॉब और एम्प्लॉयमेंट जो है वो बहुत एक क्रिटिकल सेक्टर है जो रहा गया कि किस तरीके से रोज़गार दिया जा सकता है। इसमें एनर्जी भी आता है, पर एनर्जी के अंदर जैसे अभी कहा कि एनर्जी के अंदर रेट्स कम करें। मेरे विचार में एनर्जी पहुंचना ज़रूरी है। तो इस सरकार ने कोशिश किया कि हर एक गांव तक एनर्जी पहुंचाए, बट वो जब तक आदमी के पास एनर्जी पहुंचेगी नहीं, उसके पास बिजली नहीं रहेगी, समय नहीं रहेगा, वो पैसा कुछ भी हिंदुस्तान में, एक चाहे किसान हो, चाहे कारीगर हो, चाहे कोई इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट हो, MSME हो, वो देने को तैयार है, पर उसको मिलनी तो चाहिए। वो पिछले सरकारों ने कोशिश नहीं की। ये कहा गया ताकि एक आम आदमी को खुश कर सकें वो कि हमने कम कर दिए दर, और पर बिजली नहीं है। दर तो कम है पर बिजली नहीं है। तो मेरे विचार में सरकार अब कोशिश कर रही है किस तरीके से हम बिजली को, चाहे वो सोलर के तरीके से हो, चाहे वो और तरीके से हो, चाहे न्यूक्लियर प्लांट्स के थ्रू बने, वो पहुंचाएं, लोगों तक पहुंचाएं। और हमने देखा कि बिजली खपत पिछले 1 साल में काफ़ी कम हो गई है काफ़ी प्लांट्स में। पर इसमें एक जो बिजली रेगुलेटर्स और जो जैसे भी कहा गया राज्य सरकारों का रोल है वो इम्पॉर्टेंट है। आज मैं अगर बिजली बचाता हूँ तो मेरे को बिजली बचाने का कोई बेनिफिट नहीं मिलता है किसी भी क्षेत्र में। अगर मैं बिजली बचाता हूँ तो मेरे ऊपर जो बिजली देने वाला है वो एक टैक्स लगा देता है कि आपको इतनी बिजली कंज्यूम करनी थी, आपने कंज्यूम नहीं करी तो इतना आप पैसा और दीजिए। और ये सिर्फ दिल्ली में नहीं, उत्तर प्रदेश में भी है, अलग अलग राज्य, और ये राज्य सरकारों में है। जब मैंने कुछ रेगुलेटर्स से बात करी, जो चेयरमैन रहे हैं रेगुलेटर, उनसे ही बात करी, उन्होंने कहा कि ये एक नया ट्रेंड बन गया है बड़े बड़े बिजली घरों का कि वो एक अप्रूवल ले लेते हैं, एक एडवर्टाइजमेंट निकाल देते हैं और फिर वो एक रेगुलेटर से भी निकल के आ जाते हैं जहां पे आप अपील नहीं कर सकते हैं। जैसे हम बिजली बचाते हैं, हमारे ऊपर पेनल्टी लगाई जाती है कि आपने बिजली बचाई। अब ये जो एक धारणा है वो एक सरकार सेंटर में बैठ के नहीं कर सकती है, वो एक ओपिनियन बना सकती है, वो कर सकती है किस तरीके से बिजली पहुंचाए लोगों तक। पर जब तक वो एक रिलीफ लोगों को नहीं मिलेगा कि अगर आपको एक बेनिफिट आप कर रहे हैं, सरकार की बिजली बचा रहे हैं जो दूसरा इंसान यूज कर सकता है, तो उसको बेनिफिट दिया जाए, उस बेनिफिट की जगह आप उसे पेनल्टी लगा रहे हैं। और ये सिर्फ बिजली घरों में नहीं, अब हम बैंकिंग में भी देखें, मैं एक सेकंड लेना चाहूंगा, अगर हम बैंकिंग में देखें, अब RBI ने रूलिंग निकाला कि जिन्होंने OD अकाउंट, ताकि NPS कम हो, OD अकाउंट्स हैं उनको उन्हीं अकाउंट्स में करंट अकाउंट पर उसकी लिमिट सेट की हुई है। अब बैंक मैनेजर क्या कर रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं कि अगर आपने OD अकाउंट 1 लाख का भी खोल रखा है कहीं पे, या तो उसको बंद करिए, नहीं तो हमारे यहाँ करंट अकाउंट बंद करिए। अब आप सोचिए जो MSME है, बड़ा क्षेत्र वाला तो कर लेगा मैनेज, पर जो MSME है वो क्या करेगा। अब उनको कहते हैं कि RBI का सर्कुलर आप पढ़िए, वहां पे कहीं नहीं लिखा, तो वो कहते हैं जी हमारे बैंक की नीति है ये कि, और ये बड़े बड़े बैंक इंक्लूडिंग SBI ने कहा कि हमारी बैंक की नीति है कि इसको आप बंद करना होगा।
उसकी
तो
दिशा
ये
और
जो चीज
उसका
है
जो
सरकार
मोटिव
को देखना
बदलता हुआ
जरूरी है।
नजर आ रहा है। इस पर आऊं दिलीप सर, 2 चीजें, एक तो ये एनर्जी, और अगर पावर सेक्टर की बात करें, कुछ बड़ी उम्मीद कर सकते हैं इस बार बजट में, कुछ नई स्कीम्स, कुछ नए इंसेंटिव्स की बात, क्योंकि उस तरफ बढ़ने के इशारे हमने देखा है कि सरकार की ओर से लगातार हो रहे हैं।
जो आप एनर्जी सेक्टर में देखें तो एक जो सोलर एनर्जी या विंड एनर्जी पे जो क्षेत्र है उसमें प्रोडक्शन जो, क्योंकि हम काफी इंपोर्ट डिपेंडेंट है, तो इसमें आत्मनिर्भरता की तरफ बढ़ते हुए एक तरीके से आएगा। दूसरा जो ये पूरा, जैसे प्रोफेसर अमन अग्रवाल कह रहे थे कि जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के साथ जुड़े हुए सब संबंध है वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के द्वारा एक्चुअली किया जाएगा। वो इस क्षेत्र में उम्मीद है कि वो पेश किया जाएगा और पारित किया जाएगा। तो उससे ईज ऑफ जो ओपन एक्सेस है, क्योंकि अभी ओपन एक्सेस थियरी में तो है जैसे, लेकिन प्रैक्टिस में नहीं है। और दूसरा अगर आप देखें तो ये जो क्रॉस सब्सिडी है, क्योंकि इंडस्ट्री एक्चुअली उस तरीके से सब्सिडाइज करता है। अगर सेंटर और स्टेट्स मिल करके ये जो कंज्यूमर्स जिनको भी कोई इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कम दाम पे देना है DBT के द्वारा दिया जाए, तो उसका अगर प्रावधान हो तो वो काफी एक तरीके से फायदेमंद होगा, क्योंकि अगर इंडस्ट्री का कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस बढ़ाना चाहिए तो कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल की, जैसे मैंने पहले जिक्र किया था, उसको एक जो लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंस और लो कॉस्ट फाइनेंस की एक तरीके से जरूरत है। दूसरा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, पावर और लॉजिस्टिक्स में भी एक तरीके से बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है कि अगर अगर इन पे नहीं ध्यान देंगे तो इन्वेस्टमेंट, अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए काफी इंसेंटिव्स भी देंगे, लोग इन्वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि वो जब पूरा कैलकुलेशन करेंगे, अगर कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस नहीं बढ़ेगा, अगर लॉजिस्टिक्स के दाम बढ़ेंगे, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के दाम बढ़ा होगा, और भी लोकल टैक्सेस के अगर अगर उनके ऊपर इन्फोर्स किया जाएगा तो काफी मुश्किलात होंगी।
Right.
तो इससे अगर आप देखें तो बहुत ही जरूरत है, ये कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस को इम्प्रूव करने का एक बहुत अवसर है। बट जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का है वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के द्वारा मोस्ट प्रोबेबली वो आएगा आगे जा करके।
Absolutely. Okay, we've got very limited time, so a quick reaction, Surojit, from you as well. Let's talk about another very important sector, that is the services sector, and they believe that, you know, they've not got the kind of help that they should be receiving from the government over the last few months. So can we expect something on that front, because it's a big and a crucial and an important sector from an economy point of view and from a job creation point of view as well?
One can expect some measures. There will be more than a few measures to help the services sector. We have seen how hotels, the hospitality sector, the airline sector, they have been under huge stress. Although things have been improving of late as the economy opened up, but I'm sure there will be more than enough steps to take care of this critical sector. And more than that, you know, this budget is basically going to put India on a firm footing to growth. So the objective here is growth, and I'm sure that the government will unveil measures that will put the economy back on track.
Absolutely. But 2 minutes left, Kavindra, so let's try and get some
बिल्कुल, और
quick reactions now
एक छोटा
before
सा
we wind
रिएक्शन मैं
up.
चाहूँगा यदवेंद्र सर आपसे, बहुत संक्षेप में क्योंकि वक्त नहीं है। जब हम खर्चों की बात कर रहे हैं, स्कीम्स की बात कर रहे हैं, तो हमें यही बताना पड़ेगा दर्शकों को कि भाई बजट इनकम कहाँ से होने जा रही है और इनकम को कैसे बढ़ाया जाए, वहाँ पर कितना स्कोप और टूल है।
अब इनकम तो गवर्नमेंट के, मैं नहीं समझता कि कोई इसमें टैक्सेस बढ़ेंगे, और डिस्पोजेबल इनकम मिडिल क्लास के हाथ में और आए, एक्सपेंडिचर मिडिल क्लास और करे, कंस्ट्रक्शन के एरिया में भी जो इन्वेस्ट करेगा उसको कुछ रिलीफ मिलना चाहिए। तो गवर्नमेंट के पास फिस्कल स्पेस कम है, लेकिन नए टैक्सेस नहीं लगेंगे, लेकिन डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट से और प्रोसीड्स आ जाएंगी। इसका मार्केट स्टॉक एक्सचेंज ऑल टाइम हाई पे है। ये बिल्कुल सही समय है जब, जैसा मैंने पहले कहा, कि जो बड़े एयर इंडिया और भारत पेट्रोलियम, इनका डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट मैं